Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist at Nutrient Ag Solutions, and I want to thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Well, we're going to start off with an animation of Sunday's powerful low-pressure system that eventually spread across North and South Carolina, bringing in anywhere between 3/4 of an inch to over 1.5 inches of rainfall to some locations. Now, large low-pressure systems like this, as we view them here on infrared satellite, produce everything. We got snow that spread from parts of Colorado clear to Boston, bitterly cold air on the backside of this, incredibly windy conditions on the backside of this, and as I'm sure you heard on Sunday, incredible amount of severe weather across parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. And those strong storms did move through the Carolinas here and even down into Florida as we move throughout the day on Sunday. We'll take a look at those total rainfall amounts in a few minutes. If you are not frequently visiting the Storm Prediction Center's website, spc.noaa.gov, you need to start doing this. We have in this country the best National Weather Service program you could imagine, and they do a phenomenal job picking up on where the severe weather threat is. They issued this outlook early in the morning on Sunday, kind of honing in on exactly where they were anticipating the severe weather to erupt later in the day. And although it was quite tragic what happened that day, with adding 39 reports of tornadoes and 126 total reports of severe weather, I just want to tell you something. The National Weather Service nailed it with this. They do a phenomenal job. And in fact, on that day, they had to issue over 200 separate storm warnings, 100 tornado warnings, and 100 severe thunderstorm warnings. Incredible day on Sunday. I just want to show you something. It's about the time of year that we're going to have to get used to looking at stuff like this. I've been talking a lot in my videos this week about, or will be talking a lot in my videos this week about this particular supercell thunderstorm. This is classic shape. So here's your main hook echo right here, forward flank of the storm, and come back around to the back again. So the tornado sits right inside here, right inside the hook, and what we've got even there is a debris ball signature. That's the high rate of reflectivity that you see right in through there. This is classic structure, and this was the Lee County, Alabama tornado, which tragically, I believe, has got a fatality count that right now is over or up to 23 people. We just have to start watching for stuff like this. This is the time of year that we're going to be seeing this. One of my colleagues, Stu Ostro, made this incredible 3D volume rendering of the tornado, and it was a wide and powerful tornado, to say the least. Now, I did pull this off of Twitter. U.S. Tornadoes, great one to follow here if you want to follow tornado activity across the country. They reported that a billboard in Lee County was actually thrown 20 miles away from where it was originally put there. Just incredible to see that. I'll be looking at this later in the day on Monday to see how it all panned out. Now, where this took us so far in terms of tornado numbers, right now we are at, well, you can add 38 to that number 44 down there, and that brings us much closer to average. Just want you to see that this time of year, we're getting into the more active time of year for severe weather. Really, April, May, and June is that time period. So we'll be watching the total count of tornadoes. We do expect the southeast and the east coast to have a very active year, unlike last year. Just remember, 1,400 is the average number of tornadoes we have each year, and that's 75% of the world's tornadoes. Incredible to see that. When we look at our last 72 hours of total accumulated precipitation, we did pick up, as you see here, across the state of North and South Carolina. We saw across those states anywhere between 3/4 of an inch, in some locations up over 1.5 inches of rainfall. So quite wet, and I'm bringing in that rain all the way to the coast. As we slide on into Monday to Tuesday, this all hazard weather map for Monday is really what's going to tell us to be on the lookout for, and that's a lot of cold air. We are actually seeing freeze warnings getting all the way down into Mississippi, Alabama, and that cold air will be sneaking over to us here in the Carolinas. Now, starting off on Monday, check this out. Here's our freezing line. This is early Monday morning. The zero line's tucked way back here in Illinois. In fact, we set a new record here where I live in Champaign with our coldest temperature ever for this day. But look at as I play forward here. We will see that by the time we get into, here it is, this is now Tuesday morning, that freezing line comes pretty far here into the state of North Carolina, getting probably toward Raleigh. Much of South Carolina will be very close to freezing, but the freezing line does dip all the way down to the Gulf Coast, which is why we have those frost and freeze advisories pretty far to the south. That cold air continues to stick around as we progress through the day on Tuesday and then getting into Wednesday again. So we've got a couple of days here of sub-freezing temperatures. And look at this, Wednesday morning, by the time we get into the early morning hours on Wednesday, we may have freezing temperatures clear to the coast on these northwest winds. So we're going to be getting into the middle part of this week with some bitterly cold temperatures. Outside of that, in terms of precipitation, this is going to be a relatively dry week. We may not see precipitation until the end of the week. What you see over here in the southeast, all of this is really the remnants of the first system moving on through. So this is going to be relatively dry throughout this week, but we will be watching a couple of systems slam into the west coast that will be bringing some problems for us by the weekend. So if we kind of look at those, what we're going to be paying attention to is you see this spin here sitting off of the west coast. That coastal low is going to be our problem maker by the time we get to next weekend. Meanwhile, as the jet stream dips into this trough that you see right in through here, this is going to keep us cold and dry throughout much of this week. But let's watch and see what happens to this system that slams into the west coast. Here we are by Wednesday. You can see the deep trough sitting over the southeast. That's our coldest day of the week, more than likely. But then that trough right here emerges into the Central Plains by Friday into Saturday. There we go. Now this is going to be interesting because as this comes through, this particular trough has a negative tilt to it, which means it's going to lift. For us over on the East Coast, this is going to be bringing up some warm, moist, unstable air out of the Gulf of Mexico, setting us up for more strong thunderstorms, but it is also going to be setting us up for warmer than average conditions because that trough lifts north. See that? Doesn't dig, it lifts. Then we have another one that hits out here, coming right in the middle part of the country, doing the same thing. So along the East Coast, this pattern break that we've seen is really going to change what we're getting in terms of precipitation type, but also temperatures moving forward. So if we kind of take a closer look here with our operational European model, here's the first system that left us on Monday, so that one's on off. We do have the chance maybe for some coastal showers Tuesday morning, Tuesday midday, but it's going to be right here along the coast that we're going to be seeing that. Much of us will be dry in the Carolinas. Things are cool and dry through Wednesday. They're cool and dry through Thursday. We are going to have to watch, though. Here it is, ready? This is now getting into Friday midday. This is now Saturday morning. Here comes that next big coastal system. I'm sorry, that next system that came on the coast, but it's now getting in the Central Plains. So this is now saying for me that we're going to have to watch Sunday afternoon. So again, we got a chance for some precip on Friday, but really it's going to be coming in this weekend with this system. And if there's enough warm air advection as this system rolls through and drags its front on through us throughout the day on Sunday, potentially again more strong to severe storms stretching all the way from the mid-Atlantic getting down into the Gulf Coast. So that's our next big system. Now just to show you, again, that's a week out here, but just to show you that the pattern's not slowing down, you can see all across the southeast the following week we're keeping things wet and stormy, and then another big system coming through by mid-March. It's March 13th, 14th, 15th. So my point here is just to tell you that the pattern we've got right now is not changing too much. So when you take a look at this map, which shows you the next week's worth of precipitation, remember that much of this is coming in at the end of the week and over the weekend. You're going to have a cool, dry week outside of this. So this, again, is just looking over the next week in terms of total precipitation. A lot of these systems hitting California first before they come over here to the East Coast. Just want to make sure we also keep a track of our departure from normal precipitation. So this was valid through 7 a.m. on Sunday morning. We'll get updates of these maps throughout the week. Technically, parts of the Carolinas getting into Georgia where all that rain just came through were dry going into this. It was really wet on the backside of the Appalachian Mountains, so getting out to the western side of them in the Tennessee Valley. So we're going to see this whole region picking up precipitation toward the end of the week and weekend here, which will kind of keep working on the drier deficits we've seen in that area. Now watch the breakdown in the pattern. We've seen for so long this big ridge that's been sitting over Alaska. It's about to break, and that ridge as it breaks is going to change our whole flow pattern. Again, Monday morning we saw this deep trough sitting in this area. That was what was keeping things quite cold, but watch as I play this forward. What are we going to see? Well, we're going to see as that next system comes out here toward the end of the week on the west coast, it swings in and brings a lot of warm air out ahead of it. So that's why we're going to be seeing rebounding temperatures after midweek as this ridge builds in across the Carolinas here and really across the eastern third of the country. That system lifts north. See the ridging continue here. The next system comes on by March 13th, 14th. More ridging out east. So more often than not, we're going to be seeing after the cold start to this week, warmer conditions pushing in. I will show you this. As I stretch this all the way out to the middle of the month, we do get into what we call a positive P&A pattern. So we're going to have to keep a close eye by the time we get to March 16th, 17th, 18th on what's going on with the flow to see if we do favor more troughing here, which would produce quite a few coastal systems to be keeping a close eye on because they can be pretty powerful this time of year. So I guess my takeaway point, we have a highly amplified flow pattern and it is very active, so don't rest on this one at all. All right, showing you temperatures. Just keep an eye over here. Here's the cold air coming in. There it is. Big blast of cold air middle of this week. But then look, see the rebounding warmth we're going to be getting here along the coast as that trough kind of gets established in the middle part of the country. It may swing through by this 16, 17, and 18 getting out east. But remember, in mid-March, to be just a couple degrees colder than average is nothing that we have got to be too afraid of at this point. We will be watching out if there are any major cold air outbreaks to discuss. We'll keep a close eye on them and update you each week. But right now, I'm not seeing anything after the big cold air that we have coming in the next few days coming in quite as cold as that. So March is certainly going to transition us away from that pattern. To finish this up, I just want to give you a quick update on what's going on in South America because we're talking about a safrinha crop here with cotton, corn, and then that first crop, soybeans. Remember, Mato Grosso, which is this region right over here, the biggest producing area for corn, cotton, and soybeans, had picked up a pretty big deficit in rainfall, but recently at the end of February brought in a lot more rainfall, so that's important for the safrinha corn and cotton. Getting a little bit farther to the south here, Mato Grosso do Sul into this region. Here, again, a deficit, but they've recently brought in quite a bit of precipitation. Further south than that, getting all the way down to like Rio Grande do Sul down here, been very wet recently. They're much closer to average. And then in Argentina, we're talking about wetter than average conditions for both their corn and soybeans. So I wanted to kind of give you that global perspective here, at least the South American perspective, as we wrap up this video. And with that, I'll go ahead and wrap it up, though. We at Nutrient Ag Solutions and at AgCarolina want to thank you for your attention. Hope you look forward to our next forecast video coming out soon. Thank you.